Hello, and welcome to Food in Art, a wonderful opportunity for you to get a taste of how two human concerns, nourishment and beauty, have blended together through the centuries to create masterpieces. I'm art historian Elizabeth Lev, and I hope that you'll enjoy these bite-sized pieces of fun, facts, faith, and beauty about food. You walk into a beautiful museum, the Barberini Palace, and then you turn down a little, somewhat narrow corridor, and boom, you're faced with this. You're in a butcher shop. The Butchers, a painting by Bartolomeo Passerotti from 1585, is a very startling work for its age. Even in our age, where anything goes in art, it's a bit of a surprise to find these two men and this hanging wall of meat in what we would expect to be a classical art museum. Artists in the late 16th century were particularly encouraged to work on biblical themes, portraits, images of saints. But Bartolomeo Passerotti was a Bolognese who grew up in the shadow of the oldest university in the Western world, the University of Bologna. He was a man full of curiosities, and he was particularly interested in natural history, a budding and growing science at the University of Bologna. And so he put together his two loves of nature, the natural world, the physical world, and human nature, and he combined them in this surprising and extremely unusual painting. Now, the first startling element about the painting is that it's so life-size. Usually when we looked at paintings in art that are of a genre scene, a scene of natural everyday life, it's smaller. So from our superior position, we can look down on this little world. But with Passerotti's painting, you walk right up to a butcher's counter, and those figures are the same size. Furthermore, there's no pretty landscape or blue sky for you to look at. They're just hanging racks of cuts of meat with more pieces of flesh lying on a counter. It's as if you've walked up to the butcher shop and you're already being asked, what do you want to order? Now, the interesting thing about this is that it brings together not only the fascination with rendering the accuracy of the anatomical cuts of meat that you see in the background that comes from the University of Bologna's anatomy lab right down the street from his studio, but it also, in this work, reflects the thinking of the dynamic Archbishop of Bologna, Gabriele Paleotti, who had arrived in the city and was trying to draw forth, reignite the spiritual life of the city of Bologna. And so in this very strange painting, which seems to be a scene from the local market, Passerotti manages to give us the natural world and a little indication of the supernatural world. After all, this hanging meat all around you, the word in Italian for meat is carne, and that's where we get our word carnal, flesh. And so there you are, you've walked into this shop of flesh, and you find yourself standing, looking right at that threshold at all of this temptation, this succulence, a world of appetite, a world of desire. That big fleshy piece of meat that the butcher offers towards you is countered by the heart you see sitting on the table, an eviscerated heart that pokes out towards you with a knife resting gently on it. And so you're torn between the world of the flesh and its consequences. This way of drawing together in such an interesting and startling fashion these two worlds. Now let's take a look at those two butchers. Butchers, by the way, were a very important part of the society in Bologna. In Rome, we have a very famous confraternity of butchers. In Bologna, the arte of the beccai who were the butchers of Bologna, they formed an important political group, and they often helped the people of Bologna against the administration. So this important role that the butchers played in the life of the people. Look at those two butchers. They look friendly, they look ready to help you, but now look more closely. The butcher on the right, florid, jolly, touching that big piece of meat that he's ready to hand to you, he was used in another painting by Passerotti to represent the personification of lust, that sense of desire. The other man, standing in front of the darkness in the painting, seems to smile, but as you look more closely, he's partially hidden in shadow, and his smile is a sly smile. What is the abyss that he's hiding, that's hiding behind him? The abyss of sin. So this particularly fascinating period in the history of art in the 16th century in this wonderful little town of Bologna, which was famous for its food, Bologna is famous for its cuisine, learning how to use food to become a metaphor for the choice between good and evil, right and wrong. It had tremendous influence, this work, on other painters, including Annibale Carracci, who did several paintings of butcher shops later on in his career.